Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, August 2nd. I cannot believe it's August. That's my brain exploding. And we're here to do morning analysis. I am Todd Rich with the Nadex. With me from Keep Trading Simple, Brian Caprice. Brian and I are going to look at some potential hotspots in the markets today, just do a little bit of technical analysis, help focus you looking for some potential opportunities before we jump into that. I am going to share this disclaimer that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone. That any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And lastly, this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We're going to do this for your education purposes. So please just keep that in mind. So, what are we going to look at today? It is a bit quiet in the summer here. We are looking at equities all opening, maybe slightly in the green. Uh, we've had Gold's wild ride since Thursday, so we'll talk a little bit about that. In fact, that's probably we'll start off, and then we'll take a look over at a currency. I think we might look at the U.S. dollar, Canadian dollar. So we might do one from each of the markets here at Nadex. Just do some technical analysis, take a look at some interesting levels. As you can see, gold was range bound all last week, and then all of a sudden, finally, we get this great breakout, and gold went volatile, and that fizzled out. And here we are again, starting a new week, and that level before that was that resistance level, resistance that they finally broke through, uh, became temporary support, and now it's back to resistance right around that 1815 level. Brian, I'm going to flip it over to you. We could start with gold, and then maybe we'll take a look at an index, probably the Nasdaq, and
Sure.
a commodity, and we'll just take a peek because I don't think there's any major news
Mm-mm.
announcements or anything earth-shattering that we're
No,
going to be
not
getting.
really. Yeah,
So,
and I mean, this will be a big week for news, but the first bit of news we have coming in today is at 10 o'clock, the ISM manufacturing PMI. It is expected to be a little bit higher. And again, that's probably where after we have the initial kind of just opening surge, we'll see how that kind of, can provide the narrative for the rest of the day. But besides that, you can see like a lot of the latest stories, really not a whole lot in there. Resource and staff shortages constrain UK growth. Again, that's the same thing we're dealing with right here. Where we just don't have the employees that you just can't find people to take the jobs. Um, Besides that, there's not really a ton. I mean, we had the U.S. and Israel; they're all going after Iran again. I don't know. Eventually, we'll learn. If there's certain areas where if we don't apply pressure, they kind of come back again. Iran has been a very big source of it, kind of like how North Korea was years ago. Iran is the thing now, and it's kind of like, hey, we promised we'll be good. Okay, all sanctions lifted. Ha! Joke's on you. And we're
right.
not learning from it. The same scenario in, again, one of the biggest things that the country's dealt with, as far as, terrorist acts, obviously, was, the Taliban. And again, we're pulling out, and they're having a field day over there. They're taking bases over, sending pictures, and even the locals are like, hey, without help, we're gonna collapse. And we're making the same mistake in two places. It is what it is, but that's really it. Uh, Brainard actually made some comments about how we really need to get ahead of this. With Powell ahead of Biden, Fed chair choice. This will be interesting to see how this kind of goes out. There's a couple people jockeying, obviously, for the Fed chair position. Um, Again, every one of them has kind of their own little perk. There were some comments made by Bernard about digital dollar, that it's ridiculous we don't have one
I
yet.
did catch that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny because everybody's different, and Powell's was we don't want to make the mistake by doing it first. And I made comments about how it's crazy that we're letting China kind of dictate how those are rolling out globally. That just didn't look great for us. And then she's actually the one that has been kind of the most, I'd say, gung ho for the digital dollar. And again, it's coming; it'll definitely be there. And again, that's kind of the crypto realm. Once those digital ones are there, the crypto realm, I think, is going to have major problems, especially with it being outlawed in so many different countries. And there's
Yeah.
been comments made here about, yeah, we can't really control what's happening with it. There's no way to oversee it. Um, it's going to, once it's digital here, that it will be outlawed. Is what my opinion is.
And the I mean, other than using blockchain technology to log the transactions, which
Mhm.
is a very efficient technology. We're nearly there anyway, in as
Correct.
much as who uses cash? I mean, everything's done electronically. So
Mhm.
to go from electronic to digital isn't that
It's
far
not.
of
No,
a leap.
it's no, it's not, and it's not, and it speeds up a lot of things. And then you look at it, I mean, think about it. If you're not
Efficiency.
producing coins, like you guys know, my wife is Canadian. They don't have pennies up there. The reason why is because it's more expensive than what they're worth. So they don't. Everything goes by 5 cents in Canada. So I mean, if you think about if we don't produce those things, I mean, you think about money. Everybody touches it. It's dirty. We're in a pandemic right now. I mean, money is considered one of the dirtiest things for how many hands it passes back and forth between. So, like cash, right?
Yep.
But I mean, it just, everything is electronic. I mean, we're gonna have that microchip where it's gonna be like, bing, here's my entire life, including my money. There'll be an increase in how hands are missing, because we're gonna our chip's gonna be.
Great.
But besides that, there's really not news wise on the economic front. There's not really a lot there. I mean, you know, gold was kind of whipsawing back and forth. And again, from last week, we saw that there was, it pushed to the downside. We had talked about that level at 1830. So, I mean, it came in a little bit later and it was a little bit slow, but gave us multiple entries in and then ended up kind of coming down and halting right around that 1810 area. And we're kind of chopping back and forth there right now. I would say, when we looked at one of the things we talked about last week is how we kind of had a lot of reversals back and forth where we had down one day and then it would be like down in one session, back in the other, down in one and back in the other. And
Right.
really, I mean, here is the 3 o'clock candle. I mean, this is what, 3 o'clock till now. That's kind of what gold did. If I'll just move this aside, you can see it. That's not really up or down. It's kind of we're just kind of basing sideways. So there's not really a lot of momentum. And again, US traders the last couple of weeks have really kind of brought that trend in. But with us basing at this level, I mean, it really could go in either direction. I would say downside over here at 1795. Again, that's below that magical 1800 number. That would be the next area where we've had a lot of buyers stepping in. So if we are able to drive gold down today, and again, the reason why gold would drive down is because we can't have a morning without somebody talking about a surge in Delta. They've already said it's not going to affect how we're not closing back down again. We're not doing all these things again, but there's a surge. But
Yep.
the reason why everything dropped before was because we were closing everything down. They said they're not closing everything down. It'll just be we're going to do this, 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 and this, but we're not shutting stuff down. So, again, if it comes down, I think 1795 is a decent level to go long from. But we got to see where the trend is really established. And again, the next really clean short, I would say, is probably back up at that same 1830 level. Sellers really kind of stepped in there and kind of pushed it back down again. So really top and bottom is probably for gold and oil has got a bit more
Hang
movement.
on. Before we flip over to oil, I just wanted to go back because I just do think it's kind of fascinating on this particular gold chart that this 1815 level that was that level that we've had that went. I mean, it went back, um, and it's that same 1795 level down below. Uh, you know, is it going to go back into this range now until we wait and see? I don't know, but certainly, buyers are going to, looking for buyers to come back in down here, and I'd still I'd eyeball this 1815 level because for some reason has been relatively significant when it's as resistance before as its support, and generally, this is that almost that Harry Potter setup that you would talk about, where um, it kind of breaks through a level, comes back, bases, and you end up seeing extend lower. So if we do see it going lower, that 1795 level that you talked about could be really interesting. So
Mm,
well,
yeah.
pay attention because we really don't know what else is going to be going on today, and gold might be where you see it.
No,
So
Monday's the day that we've really had. It's one consistent trend on money, and then we spend the reversal. The next 2 days. So, we
all
got to
right,
figure out what it is first. Um, And then again, oil, oil as far as going in like the futures contracts, oil has moved the most of gold, oil, silver. It's down zero point 0.9, but interestingly enough, from where it started, yeah, it's down 0.9 because this is where we opened back in the 73 level. But again, the blue box here is the European session. Let me adjust it just a little bit. You can see, when we started up here, we were up in the 73.40 range. We drove all the way down, and then at 6:30, we kind of reversed back, and we're starting to kind of, starting to capitulate a little bit, but we're kind of right in the middle of that range. And again, it's a decent sized day, but again, this is the same thing. If you guys see the drawings here, where we had one direction in the European session, and then kind of the reversal in the U.S. session. Again, it did it here, 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 And now it's kind of like, where do we go? I mean, it did push all the way down, but now we're kind of like back to here. It's very, very small. I mean, everybody's waiting for, okay, what's business going to look like this week? And again, July is a very big, travel month for vacations. I know this weekend was a big one. A lot of teams in the area. You guys know that I coach the boys lacrosse team, and had tryouts this weekend, and I actually helped out with some other teams as well. And everybody was traveling this weekend. The last weekend of July, I think, besides the Thanksgiving holiday, I think the last week of July is the most travel friendly week that exists in the U.S. Everybody I know, and there's so many people I know that are gone right now. So we'll see. It should be an interesting one for numbers next week, based off of what we see. So oil did turn off a level. I mean, it was a level that we marked off last week. We saw great buying. It was a tested level and bounced back up again. And we'll really see what the trend, how the trend establishes itself as this morning. So it did do on a technical basis. It was a buy. It was tested and it went back up again. So we'll see if we're able to break through back up again and maybe get back up in the 74. But I feel as we're and I say start, I hate to say this because but we are in August. As we start to roll into fall things, oil prices go back down again as gasoline prices drop from summer gas back into fall and winter gas. So
How does that happen? How do they know that we need it during the summer? And
it's just the
it's
additives.
magical.
It's the additives. It's like oil. It's like, do I need 10W5, 10W30, 10W20? It's just those things. It's and it does make sense. I know kind of the science. I have one of my students that is a really big oil guy, and he explained it to me a while back, and it's interesting. It makes sense.
Well,
at the end of the day, I think it's just so they can make more money. But
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's money based. Yeah,
I
I don't think it truly has to do with the environment. I'm pretty sure it just has to do with making some money. That's just my opinion. I don't have any in-ins at Exxon and BP. So, but yes, I mean, I think oil again. I think today it is a little bit on more of the bearish side, and we were talking about that last week when we found that really getting that top back in there and kind of pulling down. So we'll see. And then I think as far as indices go, NQ is probably the most exciting. This dotted line, if you guys remember, I was kind of talking about the big sticking points. Like if I look at it right now, ES is 4405, right? It's right around that equilibrium of 4400. This right now is at 15,022. Again, right around that 15,000 mark. It's kind of like how gold is with 1,800. The Dow 34,915, and the Russell is right around that 2235. So it's already kind of and you can see how it's based right off this 15,000 mark and kind of popped off of it in the morning session. Again, let me drop down to 15 because that's where we do our analysis here. But again, if you can see here, establishing this area of demand again. It went right through. Like, why did it stop there? There's nothing there. Well, yeah, it's at a 15,000. You have that many zeros at the psychological level, no matter what you see to the left side. So, and you can see how it's bounced off of it. Right now, we have lower highs. So, I mean, this is something that you definitely got to look at. Since that really kind of European session trend or European session open, they've been more forcing it down. Typically, the definition, and you guys all know this, the way to figure out if markets are trending is if you have lower highs. A lot of people think if it's lower lows, that's what defines a downtrend. No, it's lower highs. What defines a downtrend. And I mean, by the technical rules, there's 3 touches on a trend line. All 3 tops coming on the downside. That's technically a downtrend. So although it's positive right now, and again, that's since the open occurred right here. Right there's the open, right there at that orange spot. Yeah, it's up. But right now, since the actual real trading session, again, this is Asian session. I mean, that's not really considered the big money movers. The big money movers stepped in here have been nothing but putting lower highs in. So it is technically, although green, it is set up on a technical basis for more of a negative day today. And there's some levels down below, that have some buyers down at like 1410 or 14,900. In reality, if it drops down to there, it literally can come right back up in base. And the lack of any real news today is the cause for it. Tomorrow morning.
By the way, I was going to say, remember on Friday, one of the reasons the NASDAQ got hammered so hard was Amazon driving it so much lower. I'm just taking a quick peek right now. Amazon's opening up a bit, $20.
Apple's up, Tesla's up.
So
Amazon, I believe, is up.
Right.
Yeah, it's Monday. I mean, it's
people are stepping in. Maybe there's some bottom fishers here in some of this stuff after. Amazon did get hammered for about 7%, and that did move the NASDAQ lower. So,
yeah, I mean, and think about news for the week. Remember, when it's Monday and it's slow, this is when you can look at some of again, because price is in somewhat close proximity where it would open on Sunday night, this is where you can look at your call spreads. There's the weekly call spreads in different products. Those are not bad to take right now, again, because of the longer duration. You can also look at knockouts and kind of see, where we are with things. Is there anything that could be, there was a couple knockouts last week. They just ran the entire week. Dollar yen was one of them, where if you got in Monday on that knockout, it just all week, it just continued to go higher, 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 higher. Monday when it's slow is now's the time to do it. Put the extra analysis in, and again, just draw it out there. You guys know how. I'll grab one and I'll put it here, and I turn it purple, and that's how I know where my knockouts are for the week. Make sure on your chart again, if you're using Nadex, you can kind of see it. But seeing the little blue lines for like the knockouts, I just prefer this because it's just in your face versus the little blue line that's on the left hand side, and you got to click on things. Because again, if you're not on the strike, you can maybe not see the blue lines. It just it's nice when you kind of mark it off on the chart because it shows up on every single one of them. So, um,
So,
just a little trick for the
so
day.
last thing, I think we mentioned we were going to take a look at a currency. I thought we were going to. Let's
Yeah,
take.
you were really into dollar CAD this morning, so we can
Well,
go back to dollar CAD.
that's just so I could say my stupid joke.
Go ahead. We're going to go to dollar CAD. Go for it,
I'm
Todd.
not even
Take it
saying it
over.
now.
All right, Cotton, take it.
No.
Yeah, dollar CAD's an interesting situation. We talked about it last week, a break. It's an area that we've hit a number of different times now. As you can see, there's 3 touches here, and it's literally pushed it, and I'll make it big so you guys can see it. It's literally pushed it to the brink. And remember, we're looking for a break of this. We're looking for some basing. We got some spacing, but then a shot back up again. Basically, what this is telling me is there's probably not a lot of buyers left in here. And again, this was a news-based spike up again. The buyers that used to be here, again, every time they drive lower and lower, it shows that there's less and less and less buyers there. The next time we have that breakthrough of 124.22, it looks like it could be a pretty decent runner of 40 pips back to the downside to 123.80. So again, right now, is it there? No, it's, we're about 30 pips from that level again. But again, when you're setting up your trades for the week, understand what products will be able to benefit the most from being in that area. And again, it's an if this, then that scenario. Set an alert, depending on what platform you lose, set an alert somewhere in the middle of the zone, maybe kind of right here, depending on how fast it takes you typically to get back. And then again, you don't have to watch it until it comes down there because it could go up. But when it eventually does hit here, bam, that's where you get in. And again, you've already have your pre-trade kind of plan already established of what it's going to do. If it does this, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to use this product and trade it like that. But again, 40 pips is pretty decent to the downside.
Perfect. Yep. So definitely something to be looking at as a trade setup in the U.S. dollar, Canadian dollar. With that, any questions for Nadex, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. Any questions for Brian, you can hit him up at support@keeptradingsimple.com. It has been a bit of a quiet setup for Monday, but the equities are looking to open slightly in the green. And we did take a look at some interesting technical levels in gold. There has been some volatility. Some of those levels are coming back into play. NASDAQ and the U.S. dollar, Canadian dollar, some trade setups to be looking for, and an if this, then that scenarios. But there you have it. If hopefully that helps for trade setups for today. Brian and I will be back tomorrow morning. So we will catch you all tomorrow morning. Until then, want to wish everyone good luck in the markets. We'll catch you later, everyone. Thanks.